Hey guys, Yankee here, and today I'm going to be giving my thoughts on Digimon Ghost Game episodes 32 and 33. So, 32 opens right up with Gamamon basically saying goodbye to Hiro. He's going out to hang out with a friend somewhere else, and Hiro's fine with this. I think I've mentioned this in these videos before. I like how um, Gamamon is growing a little, right? Like, just a few episodes ago, I don't know how many it's been, in the Pixiemon episode, that was like Gamamon's first errand, and everyone's following him to make sure he's okay. But now here in this episode, however many episodes later this is, we got Gamamon saying, "Hey, I made a friend that's a Digimon. I'm gonna go hang out with him." And Hiro's like, "All right, see you later. Go have fun." So in that time, like Gamamon has got to a point where Hiro is now trusting enough to let him just sort of go out on his own. Like how Angoramon or Jellymon does. So that's great. Gamamon is slowly growing. He's still like a baby, basically. He's like a toddler, but he is growing a little bit. So Gamamon leaves, and that's when we see there's a second Gamamon in the hallway. And a few seconds later, he knocks at the door. Hiro opens the door. "Oh, who are you?" And then we get a shot of its eyes. And I'm going to bring this up because at the end I want to talk about this. We see a shot of this imposter's eyes, and then after that is when Hiro says, "Oh, it's you, Gamamon. Come on in." And in the meantime, the real Gamamon is just at the park waiting, and we learn that this imposter. Well, we don't see get the name of who the imposter is after a while, but it's the Digimon Betsumon, who is bizarre. It's just like a man wearing a Gatomon costume with like face paint. It's such a weird Digimon, and to use it in this episode where they're like basically just trying to take the place of a bunch of not just Digimon but also humans. It's odd, but like I don't know. Betsumon's a weird Digimon. So anyway, we get like an interesting bit where like okay, Betsumon is taking Gamamon's place. Hiro believes that he is Gamamon. And then the real Gamamon's coming back. Betsumon leaves. Gamamon comes back. And Gamamon and him are, and like Hiro, just sort of confused about what's going on, right? Gamamon less confused in this moment because he's just like, "No, I just got back. I wasn't here. What are you talking about?" And Hiro's just a bit confused. But a couple times we see like the switch where Betsumon is taking the place of Gamamon while he's away, but then coming out after a while. And then after a few times, like Hiro and Ruri and Kyoshiro and everybody are just like, no. The real Gamamon is this Betsumon in disguise. Like, who are you? You're not Gamamon. What are you talking about? So, again, I want to talk about the eyes thing at the end of my discussion of this episode, but they don't really explain exactly how Betsumon's doing this. Why did it take time for him to fully take Gamamon's place? Don't know. But it's also implied, like, pretty heavily. Like, we see, it looked like a Gatsumon outfit on a Betsumon that is who Gamamon's friend was just a Betsumon in disguise, basically getting him out of the house to then go and take his place. And, they've been at it for a minute because Gamamon, in a panic, is basically like, "Hey, Hiro doesn't remember who I am. Ruri and Angoramon, who Hiro was on the phone with, don't remember who I am. Let me go to Kyoshiro. He watches me every day while Hiro's at school. Oh, Kyoshiro doesn't think I'm the real Gamamon, and Jellymon has already been taken over by Betsumon. Well, not taken over. They don't take over anybody. They just sort of take their place, and people are forgotten. And I wish they had done more with Jellymon. Like, the Betsumon that took Jellymon's place even mentions in the episode, like, it was really easy to take her place because she's just always gone. So I wish, like, Jellymon could have shown up at some point and also been forgotten like Gamamon, and then Jellymon and Gamamon be like the two that remember each other, like something, right? But no, Jellymon's just gone until the end of the episode. And then Gamamon basically being, like, running away after everybody forgetting him. just goes to the park and is napping. And then we see a Meikumon pop up. And he's just talking to Gamamon about how the Betsumon also took his place and everybody forgot who he is and he's just going to disappear. And then he just disappears. Again, I don't know if like that's actually their power though, because the Betsumon's like abilities in this episode are never actually explained. So did that Meikumon actually disappear? Or did he just leave and then like Gamamon, being still childish, assume that he just disappeared? But yeah, Meikumon shows up and then basically talks about the Betsumon, then leaves. And then eventually Gamamon is trying to basically just get to Hiro or Kyoshiro or anybody. Like, he overhears the Betsumon talking about like their plan to basically take over the whole dorm to replace the people, replace the Digimon. And then he tries to go to Kyoshiro first, but Kyoshiro is already getting tied up and his place is being stolen by a Betsumon. And then he rushes down to Hiro, who Hiro manages to wake up before the Betsumon in the Hiro costume can get in and they can like tie him up and take his place. And then Hiro, still thinking Gamamon, like, okay, so Gamamon in the beginning said he has a friend. Hiro thinks that the real Gamamon is the fake Gamamon's friend. So that's why he's still being sort of nice to him. He thinks that it's just like a weird Digimon thing, I guess, where he's just like, no, I'm the real Gamamon. It's like, okay, sure you are, but you're my actual Gamamon's friend, so I'm going to be nice to you. And Hiro's just a nice guy, I guess. So eventually, like, Gamamon's trying to convince Hiro that, hey, I'm the real one, he's the fake, and Hiro's just like, okay, stop. I'm taking Gamamon on a picnic, you can come too, we were going to invite you anyway. So they go to the picnic, and Hiro's just brought like a bunch of chocolates. And earlier in the episode, it was set up that the Betsumon taking Gamamon's place doesn't actually like to eat chocolate. He doesn't really like sweets. He likes, like, he took like a piece of bread and put like mustard and wasabi on it and was chowing down on that in the night. And so the way that Hiro learns that the Gamamon's an imposter and like the spell's broken is that Gamamon freaks out and just starts eating all the chocolate. The Betsumon impersonating Gamamon panics and is like, okay, Gamamon really likes chocolate. I gotta start eating all this chocolate too, or it'll be weird. Doesn't like chocolate, eats too much chocolate, passes out. And this is where I want to talk about the eye thing, I guess. He passes out, and then we see another shot of his eyes, where they got, like, you know, in anime where they sort of glaze over their eyes, where there's just, like, no pupil in them. That happens here, and that's when Hiro sort of snaps out of it. So this is entirely just theory, because, it's not actually laid out in the episode. Like, the spell has to have something to do with Betsumon's eyes, because they kept showing shots of it, right? Like, oh, fake Gamamon shows up, Hiro says, who are you? Oh, look at his eyes. Oh, you're Gamamon, come in. As soon as his eyes were sort of glazed over and Hiro took a look at them, like, all of the spell was just gone. And it's like, oh, you're the real Gamamon. Cool. So I think that is what happened. Eventually we get Gamamon, he evolves into Wezen and just shoots at, like, a group of these, because there's a ton of Betsumon just sort of infesting the place. That doesn't hurt them. He goes further to Canon Weissmon, defeats them, and then Clockmon shows up and basically says, I'm going to whip them into shape, don't worry. I do like the role sort of Clockmon has taken, though, in the series, where he's just like, he's running around trying to keep Digimon out of trouble. We saw this in the, what is that Digimon's called? Morphomon? The Morphomon episode where it's like, stuff's going, like, Digimon are acting weird, and, like, he was stepping in and just saving them, and when they found out where Morphomon was, he was the one that broke into the lady that, like, had Morphomon, like, on a hard drive or whatever, and he's the one that broke in and stole it. So I really like the role that sort of Clockmon has taken in the series, as sort of like just a guy watching over the city, trying to keep Digimon in check, but also trying to make sure that they're safe. Like, the wily ones he keeps in line, and then the ones that need help, he's there to help. I like that. But yeah, that's that episode. Not my favorite. It was not terrible. Again, I like the way that Clockmon is being handled now, even though I wasn't happy with sort of his turn, or at least how that was handled. I like Gamamon is growing. But yeah, just not a great episode. And Betsumon's just kind of weird. Alright, episode 33. This one. I mentioned Piximon at the beginning, or I think I mentioned Piximon earlier. This episode opens up with, again, Gamamon hanging out with Kyoshiro while Hero's at school. Like, Kyoshiro is basically Gamamon's babysitter, right? And Piximon's just here, hanging out. And the subs keep calling him Picklemon, even though, like, they call him Piccalomon in the show. I don't know why they keep translating it to pickle, like the food. It's bizarre. But basically, Gamamon and Piccalomon, or Piximon, are messing around, fighting, playing, where Piximon takes out a bomb and is going to blow up Kyoshiro's dorm room. Kyoshiro quickly sort of taps his Digivice, gets them to the weird, like, digital space that they go to, and gets blown up. And then we see, like, some really neat visuals where Kyoshiro's just, like... he looks like he's in, like, a laying position, but he's not laying, right? He's just in a void, sort of floating, and then he ends up in, like, a flower field, and then he ends up in, like, back in his dorm room, but it's, like, all grayed out. And just really interesting, like, visual stuff. And then eventually Jellymon shocks him and wakes him up. And from now on, he is just hearing things, right? He's hearing voices, and he doesn't know how to explain it. And it's not like... people aren't, like, dismissing it so much. It's just like, I hear something, well, I don't see anything. I can't find anything that would be talking to you. He thinks that maybe he's going crazy. He goes to the doctor, gets an MRI. That doesn't work. He goes to Mummymon to see if he knows anything. But Mummymon doesn't really know. He has, like... he talks about how there are some Digimon that die and are sort of in, like, a plane between life and death, and that might be what he was hearing. But they don't really know what Digimon it is. Mummymon introduces this medicine that he has that can bring someone, like, too near death so they can go to that spot, which comes up again later. And then Kyoshiro's just getting, like, haunted for, like, the first half of this. And I realized in this episode that these are some of my favorite. I really like this setup where, like, one of our main characters is just being, like, haunted, and a Digimon is messing with him, right? The Ruri episode with Dracmon, where, like, her hands are disappearing. Great episode. The Clockmon episode, where he's just messing with Hero the whole episode. The one where Bokumon is introduced. Great episode. I think the first half of this, where Kyoshiro is just being messed with, and, like, the voice is talking to him and trying to hurt him, and later we find out basically trying to kill him. I think all that is really cool. And then eventually succeeds in bringing him back to that sort of plane between being alive and being dead by being a Digimon, taking over a car, and trying to hit Kyoshiro. But, like, don't worry, he didn't get hit by the car, because it made it seem like he got hit by the car when they rushed him into the hospital on a stretcher. But no, that's like, no, he didn't actually get hit by the car, he just jumped out of the way of the car, hit his head. Okay. Because I was actually wondering how they were going to explain that. Like, dude got hit by a car. He's not going to be back on his feet the next episode. It's like, no, he didn't actually get hit by the car. Okay. So, again, Kyoshiro is in that plane between life and death, where we see, like, the void with all the lights flying by. We see the flower field. And then we see our Digimon of the episode, who I recognized, but I didn't know the name of. So I actually needed to wait until they mentioned the name in the episode. Sepicmon. He is an armor Digimon. I don't remember which Digi-Egg he is associated with and which Digimon he's associated with. But I do recognize him. I assume from a game somewhere. But he is basically trying to... they explain what he's about. He's basically a Digimon that hangs out with the dead or something like that. And so he's a Digimon in this world. It's not really a lot of dead people to hang out with. Kyoshiro shows up. He wants to be Kyoshiro's friend. The only way for him to be friends with Kyoshiro is to kill Kyoshiro. Makes sense? I guess. But anyway, Also, I'll mention this real quick because I have it in my notes and I've missed it. Kyoshiro gets rushed to the hospital, right? He hit his head. He's unconscious. Um, the nurse grabs Kyoshiro, brings him in, and then brings him straight to Mummymon. The nurse is one of the Betsumon from the last episode, so I don't know how often the Betsumon are going to show up, but them being able to basically take the place of people might actually come in handy. Um, and we also learned that Clockmon actually did a good job of beating them into shape. Like the Betsumon that's pretending to be a nurse is basically like, I'm only here because Clockmon made me come here. Let's just get this over with. So anyway, Kyoshiro's getting chased around this limbo-like place. He tries to use his phone, doesn't turn on. He has an idea to go to the store because he's in it's the regular Earth, the regular city, but just sort of like grayed out and there's no people. All the items and objects and stuff are still here. He goes to a convenience store. He grabs a phone charger and he just plugs it into his Digivice to make a call and it works. Okay, I didn't know you could do that. That's interesting and probably will never get brought up again. But it was also when the call comes through, everybody's freaking out, obviously. But once Hiro hears that's actually Kyoshiro, it's like, oh well, okay, he must be somewhere nearby. This weird plane of existence between life and death is apparently able to connect to a cell phone tower. Not really a cell phone tower because he used this Digivice, so they don't really explain how that works or anything. What they really need to do is get these Digivice to work like some morphers in Power Rangers where you can make calls on them. That would be convenient. But anyway, they know Kyoshiro's alive in this plane. Mummymon has the medicine to put somebody in a near-death state, and Jellymon volunteers. Jellymon almost dies, goes, saves Kyoshiro, and that's that. There's a little bit of a fight. Both of these episodes aren't particularly well animated. There's no scenes that really stand out as really good animation, which is unfortunate, but I guess when you got 60-something episodes at the time of recording this, not all of them are going to have great animation. But basically, Sepikmon is defeated. Jellymon grabs him and grabs Kyoshiro and drags them both back. And yeah, Sepikmon, they don't know what to do with them. Mummymon basically says something like, hey, Digimon that lives in the jungle, the city's no place for you. And what they end up doing with him is they drop him off in a graveyard, and he's just hanging out with spirits of dead people, which is interesting. But yeah. The first half of that episode's great. Everything leading up into... even when Kyoshiro is running away from Sepikmon, I think it's still really good. The Jellymon-Sepikmon fight's not very noteworthy. I do like the resolution of... Okay, he's kind of alone here in the city. Let's put him in this little graveyard. He can hang out with the spirits of dead people. That's a fine resolution. I'm alright with that. Overall, I think episode 32 was It wasn't terrible. I liked parts of it, but it's not particularly good. It's just sort of, middle of the road, whatever. Episode 33 I thought was quite good. Not as good as that Clockmon episode or even the Drachmon episode that I mentioned. But still a good episode, and it's a Kyoshiro Jellymon episode. They're my favorite part of the show. So that probably makes me like it a bit more than maybe I should. But yeah, overall, 2 fine episodes. Not the worst we've got, but definitely not some of the best. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.